Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you're new here, hop on the train. Hop on the Srimad Bhagavatam train. Wisdom of the Sages is a daily study of yoga wisdom literature, focusing on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Fantastic for yoga teachers, fans of yoga culture who want to add spiritual direction and upgrade their life. Welcome. So we had a very special guest yesterday, and halfway in the show, I disappeared. What do you think, Mara? What were you thinking when I just disappeared from the show right after asking that question?
I was just joking, Raghu. I don't really want to take over the podcast.
Well, what happened was two men kicked in my door.
Really?
They put a bag over my head, dragged me out, and I said, "Who are you working for?" And they're like, "Mara and Kaustubha." I said, "What? I knew it was going to happen. They're overthrowing me." No, we had a blackout. Just kidding. We had a blackout, total blackout, and I had lost my iPhone, so I couldn't do anything. And then I had no way to communicate. It's one of those things where you're exhausting every way. Can I send a text message? I have no phone. My wife wasn't here. I couldn't send a text message with her phone. And then I realized, you know what? This is God's plan. I had one of those, this is God's plan moment. The blackout was God's plan. Somehow I was going to say something stupid. So the universe whisked me off the show, and that was it. And I just sat there by the computer chanting. Maybe I was going to get back on, and I wasn't. It ended in an hour, so I missed it. What did I miss? We had a special guest yesterday, Satchidananda Swami. It was going good. My last question was, we are yet to produce a sadhu with all our vinyasa yoga.
I think it happened just so that our intense feelings of separation from you would be increased.
Really? I was wondering if you even missed me.
Oh, we did, Raghu.
I was wondering, like, do they even need me anymore? I did Joe Rogan. Now get out of here. The universe is kicking me out.
I had to lead the dancing and everything like that, you know?
Ah, that's good. Good for Kaustubha.
Yeah. I queued up that music. I got it ready. Like somehow I pulled it off like mid thing.
Did Mara talk? Did Mara talk more? Did she come out of her little shell?
No, it was just me and Maharaj. She was there.
Mara, you
Maharaj asked her something, right?
That was your big chance, you know? You're on the second string. The second string is like, okay.
I think he asked you something, though, didn't he?
Junior varsity, come on, this is your chance.
Put me in, coach.
You want to hear my biggest sports story ever? I was never big enough to play good, on the first string team, and I had a big school, junior high school and high school. But so I was second string football in ninth grade, and the whole first string got arrested for breaking into the school, and it was the big the day before the big game, and so the whole second string got to play. So this was like I sat the bench the entire year, and then they put me into play for the big game, and we won. That was it. That was my story. We won.
What position did you play?
I played like tackle.
All right.
Yeah, I was small. Both offense and defense.
Okay. All right, great story, Raghu. Let's move.
All I'm saying is that was your chance. Step in, Mara. All right. That was a stupid story to tell.
We should mention a couple of things.
Yes.
Madhu did a great class yesterday on music, introduction to kirtan. I'll try to post that.
There was a lot of positive feedback from Madhu. Everybody loves Madhu.
Yeah. And then he'll come back again on Friday to do introduction to Ayurveda. People can tune into that. But if you weren't able to catch it, I'll try to get it up today. We'll try to post that to Patreon.
Yeah, people were buzzing about that on Patreon, that little Patreon party that's going on. If you want to join that Patreon, patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. And there's a whole internal universe going on there.
Including
Including
Satchidananda Maharaj doing a live meditation and question and answer on tomorrow. He does
yeah,
it tomorrow.
and I actually personally want to thank all the people who are helping keeping this boat afloat. I really appreciate it. And yeah.
Okay.
Let's start. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badresu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. You know, I feel like there's a lot of people who join like late in the game. And I'm just going to give a very quick overview of what the hell is going on here in this book. Because it's a book of many, many stories. We're going to go story in a story in a story within a story. And so the original story is, there is a great king who's about to leave his body. He's about to die. He was cursed to die in 7 days. And in that 7 days, he had to wrap up his entire kingdom. And he had to go and find a guru. And it wasn't an ordinary guru. It was the son of the author, actually, Vyasadeva, who was considered liberated from birth. And when he gave this talk to this king who had retired, everyone wanted to hear this. People came around, even higher beings came and sat and listened. And the king who was dying, Maharaj Parikshit, he asked this question, I'm about to die. What is my duty? What is my duty now? Yeah, I had so many duties in my life, responsibilities, important facets of Dharma, but what is the real duty of a person about to die? How should they think? How should they talk? How should they sit? How should they, right? These very classic questions of what is the most important, how to prioritize my life. And we find that this question is one of the most relevant today that we could ask too. What is our duty what is our duty? We are all men and women about to leave our body. And it might not be 7 days, it might be 7 years, it might be 70 years, but that is a very real question. So the Bhagavatam gets into this. It gets into, okay, we have some duty. I'm a parent. I have some duty. I'm a dad. We have some duty. I'm a husband. I have some duty. I'm a son. I have some duty. I'm a politician or an accountant, or I have some material duty in this world. What do those duties have to do with my real essential duty? Because I also have a debt to my source. I have a lot of debts in this world, but I have a debt to my source. What is the ultimate duty? And it talks about relative duties and your eternal duties. What do you think about that, Kaustubha? Is that a good little cliff note?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You usually go when you want to kind of summarize what's the big question in Bhagavatam, is you go to that question, which of course is like a big one, but that kind of begins in the second canto. I always go to the beginning of the first canto, where the sages are gathered in Naimisharanya. So the conversation that you're describing was heard by Sutta Goswami. He heard that conversation between the king who was going to die.
He was one of the
Goswami.
onlookers listening.
Yeah, he was listening in. And then later, he was at a gathering of sages in the forest called Naimisharanya. And that's where the Bhagavatam first canto opens up. And those sages present questions to him, but among them, I would summarize, like the main question is like, how can living, you've read all of the yoga literature, all the spiritual literature, all the works of Vyasadeva, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, the Puranas. Sutta Goswami, we trust that you have the best understanding of all these teachings. We're confused. There's so much yoga information out there. It's hard to know what's what. Tell us, summarize it for us, give us the essence, and help us understand how all living beings can find Atma Supersiddhiti, can find complete satisfaction of the soul. How can people find that? The answer, it comes out in the second chapter. He says it's ultimately through Bhakti Yoga. And he gives so many reasons why. So that's also kind of like the big question that's put forward in the Bhagavatam. How can we find complete satisfaction of the soul, Atma Supersiddhiti?
And this is why the Bhagavatam is called the spotless Purana, or the essence of all the Vedas. It's almost like if I'm looking at a map of Illinois, a road map, then I'm looking at a map of, Vermont, and then I'm looking at a map of North Carolina. It's like you can get absorbed in those maps, or you can just zoom out and see, oh, this is how they all fit together. You will get this revelation just by reading the Bhagavatam. You'll see how different branches of yogic thought start to weave together as if you're zooming out and looking at the whole map of the United States. Oh, that's where Vermont is. That's where North Carolina is. You'll see how they all, so beautifully can fit within that bigger map. So you'll get a zoom out picture, and then it will zoom really right back in and give you that essential teaching of Bhakti Yoga. That's what I found. Right. So you want to start, Mr. Kaustubha Prabhu?
Sure. So we are in Canto 1, Chapter 12. We have read a little bit already. We read 3 verses. The first 3 verses were kind of those same sages in Naimisharanya. Sutta Goswami had gone off on different topics, and they brought it back. Tell us about Maharaj Parikshit, the person that hears the Bhagavatam, the person that asks that question, what is my duty, of a king, of a person that's about to die? Tell us about it. How did he come about? Where did he come from? Tell us about his life. Give us a little background on him, because before we hear the whole story that involves him, we want to know a little bit more about him.
Sure.
And so then Sutta Goswami, who's speaking to them, he starts to, he opens up with 3 verses about Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was Arjuna's brother, Maharaj Parikshit's grandfather, the current king. And he's the king that's just waiting to give up his kingship, right? He wasn't one of these people that was eager for power or was desperately trying to hang on to it. He was carrying out his role as king like out of duty, but he was ready to give it up as soon as there was someone ready to take over. And so their hopes were placed on Maharaj Parikshit, who was in the womb. But the dastardly Ashvatthama, who was so upset about how his father was killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra, which is the battle that takes place just after the Bhagavad Gita is spoken, he comes back and he fires this kind of mystical weapon at the womb of Uttara, the mother of Maharaj Parikshit. He's there in the womb. She fires this weapon to try to kill him in the womb, to try to cut off that dynasty. And so now we're going to read the verses. Sutta Goswami is explaining to the Naimisharanyas about what was going on in the womb, what Maharaj Parikshit saw in the womb as a child that was about to be born. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Text 4?
No, text 7.
Oh, text 7, sorry. O Shaunaka, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother, Uttara, and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra weapon, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. He, the Lord, was only a thumb high. I've got short thumbs. The Lord was only that big, huh?
Why don't we read the commentary? To text 7.
To text 7, okay. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months.
That means like the first 7 months in the womb.
Okay. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of another.
Of a mother.
A womb of a mother.
It's another, but
by the vehicle of a father's semen. And thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in specific bodies according to one's past actions. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb. And thus he wants to come out of it, and sometimes, fortunately, prays to the Lord for such liberation. I mean, if you think about what a baby is in the womb, they're just sort of sitting there like this.
Upside down.
Upside down. I don't know.
Where Raghu's going into his natal
I'm getting into the womb here. I mean, I wonder if they real. I mean, you're packed in. I'm wondering if it's if you even realize it because you've never moved. You know what I mean? If that's all you know.
Well, what we're reading right here is that after 7 months they begin to feel the inconvenience of it. So,
right. Okay. All right, and they want to come out.
They want to come out. Start kicking and.
Yeah, and thus he wants to come out of it. Sometimes, fortunately, he prays to the Lord. Sometimes they pray. The child in the womb will pray. So it's not all the time, but sometimes.
Bhagavatam will actually have chapters on those prayers coming up later.
Oh, yeah. Maharaj Parikshit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra, released by Ashvatthama, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy. And the child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. He just tough. I guess he was a great fighter in a previous birth. And for this reason, the word vira, or like hero, has been used, like virasana.
Yeah, so this weapon has been fired at him. He's just in the womb, but then he sees this form of Lord Vishnu appear, and that form is going to be described now.
The Lord was only a thumb high, but he was all transcendental. He had a very beautiful, blackish, infallible body. He wore a dress of lightning yellow.
What are you laughing at? You have a problem with that?
No, I'm just thinking it was like prom night or something. Or a dress of lightning yellow. and a helmet of blazing gold. Thus he was seen by the child.
There's no commentary to that one.
No commentary. The Lord was enriched with 4 hands, earrings of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. He was loitered about. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. So he's swinging his club around.
Yeah.
I'm going to read the report.
Sure.
It is said in the Brahma Samhita that the Supreme Lord Govinda, by his one plenary portion, enters into the halo of the universe and distributes himself as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, not only within the heart of every living being, but also within every atom of the material elements. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
The Lord is in full in every being and in every, right? It's like every bacteria, basically. In full.
In full.
Right?
Every atom even.
Every atom. Thus the Lord is all-pervading by his inconceivable potency, and thus he entered the womb of Uttara to save his beloved devotee Parikshit. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord assured everyone that his devotees are never to be vanquished. No one can kill a devotee of the Lord because he is protected by the Lord, and no one can save a person whom the Lord desires to kill. No one can kill a devotee of the Lord because he is protected by the Lord. And no one can save a person whom the Lord desires to kill. We know that one, right? This old Bengali proverb. Probose is laughing. Rake Krishna Marike, Mari Krishna Rakike. This is the one whenever I'm in a dangerous situation, I chant this one.
Yeah.
If Krishna wants you dead, no one can save you. If Krishna wants to save you, no one can kill you.
You know, these really sweet girls. I'm forgetting their names right now, but the twins from Chicago.
Oh, I love them.
Right.
Names?
2 Indian girls, and they're twins. They're exactly like each other. They dress alike. They speak alike.
I want a twin.
They're really good devotees, you know.
Yeah.
And they're like they're the way they come off, like their personality is just very sweet and
they're very sweet, very sweet, fun, very light, and very
But actually, like that,
But
like,
they're very deep.
they're medical researchers.
I know, but they come off like almost with like a childlike heart. But they're
Yes.
very
Oh,
like
absolutely.
very incredibly learned.
Yeah. I mean, these, and so I was asking them about their research and what they study and what they, this high level medical research that they're doing into, curing cancer. So I forget exactly what it was, but it's like, this kind of high level stuff that they're doing. And I was getting any details from them about it and trying to delve more into it. And then at one point they said, well, Prabhu, ultimately, if Krishna wants to save them, he'll save them. And if he wants to kill them, he will kill them. And I said, I hope you don't let the funders of your research know that.
The funders.
That's what it all comes down to.
That's it. Yes. But it's one of those things. Sometimes you say we've done everything right in the operation, but the patient died.
That's right.
Or some people, and just people, sometimes people die, they just peculiar deaths. Or you hear about these things like a child falls out of the back of a car where he should be dead and the kid lives.
Yeah.
How about you and me? You and me were hanging on the Lower East Side in the 80s. We should be dead. I always feel like Christian, we're protected.
Yeah. Shall we continue with the commentary?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about my
near-death
experiences.
You're in a mellow mood today, Raghu.
A little mellow.
You're a little sleepy this morning. I'm picking up. What's going on here?
Yeah, we had a big. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it.
Okay.
There is no difference. Where are we?
It's about Krishna can save anyone. Krishna can kill anyone.
Start reading. I lost my spot, please. No one can kill a devotee of the Lord.
Yeah, he became visible to his devotee Maharaj Parikshit, even in that awkward position in the womb of his mother, in a shape just suitable for his vision. So, like as he said, he was thumb high, right?
Thumb.
So that was the size he, kind of what I'm picking up in some of these commentaries. It's really interesting to me. It's that, and I tie this in with, like, say, the conversation that we had with Satchidananda Swami yesterday, where, again, here's a person that's like, his life is really about absorption, getting deeply absorbed in meditation, taking one's mind, being able to relieve it from life's distractions, free it from life's distractions, and deeply absorb that mind into spiritual content for transformation. And through my studies of the Gita, I've become convinced that really begins to take life when we move through this world very even. When we enter this stage, which we could call wisdom, which means we're moving through this world very even-minded. The changes of the external changes don't shake us up. They don't move us this way or that way. Because if we're going to be distracted or shaken by the external things, we'll never be able to go deep within. So part of that means having this equipoised mind. I used to get upset by this and thrilled by that, and now I kind of just move through it. That's part of what wisdom is. But I think another part of it, and the Gita speaks so much about this, is that you realize the presence of God everywhere. And that means that, like, no matter where you touch, he's there. He's in every atom. He's in every living being, right? He's in the tree. He's in the earth.
He's the cause of all causes. He's every situation. Yeah. He's the cause of every situation.
Yeah. So just like if you take your body, we don't see the blood, but anywhere you prick into it, you'll see that it comes out. And similarly, wherever most of us move through this world unaware of the constant presence of God. But the yogi has honed this understanding, has deepened this understanding, has cultivated this understanding that wherever I touch, wherever I look, I can begin to perceive the presence of God, whether it be in every atom, whether it be that every atom is within him. And that's, it mentioned, was it in this commentary or, he says in Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, which is the only chapter that we have, but he mentions that that the Supreme Lord Govinda, by his one plenary portion, enters into the halo of the universe and distributes himself as Paramatma, or the super soul, not only within the heart of every living being, but also within every atom of the material elements. And so there's that verse, I believe it's referring to the verse ekopyasorachaitam jagananda kotim yachakterasti jagananda chayadyaranta
I'm gonna head bobble that.
andamtarastam
Very
paramam
good.
charantarastam
Very good, sir.
govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. That he is an undifferentiated entity, as there's no distinction between the potency and the possessor thereof. He is present in his fullness, and all the universe exists in him. All the universes exist in him, and at the same time, he is present in his fullness within every atom scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time, such as the primeval Lord whom I adore. So, if you really start to think about that, you start to get into this inconceivable nature of Krishna, that he's enjoying his pastimes in Vrindavan with his intimate devotees. And due to the desire of the living entities who wish to kind of like explore enjoyment without him, the material realm is there. And he enters into that as Lord Vishnu, as Mahavishnu. All the universes are coming from the pores of his body. And then he enters into all of those universes. And then he enters into every living being and every atom within those universes. So he's present within every atom. And at the same time, every atom in every universe is present within him.
Say what?
And so Lord Brahma says, such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. Like who can understand, who can really understand this? But that we learn to think that way, that we always feel the presence of the Lord because we understand, hey, present within every body, present within every living being, present within every atom even, that I'm never out of touch with that I'm realizing I'm existing within the energy of the Supreme Lord at every moment. I'm supported by it. I am within it. It's that kind of awareness, I believe, that facilitates this kind of deeper absorption, deeper spiritual absorption. And until we begin to cultivate that vision of the yogi, our attempts to go deep into meditation will be kind of superficial. They won't go too deep. But we really have to be equipoised, and we have to begin to sense the presence of God everywhere. And then that world will start to open up to us more and more. So therefore, so many commentaries like this, they go into detail here. Shall we continue?
Yes.
You're muted.
Yes.
We lost you again.
Here come those two guys again. Hello, dear. My daughter walked in.
Okay.
Holding a cat. All right. Next verse, or
let's finish this up. He became visible to his devotee Maharaj Parikshit, even in that awkward position in the womb of his mother, in a shape just suitable for his vision. So that's why I mentioned he was like thumb height, because he was in the womb, so that was the right size. The Lord can become bigger than thousands of universes. It can become smaller than the atom at the same time. I just said that. Merciful as he is, he becomes just suitable to the vision of the limited living being. He, merciful as he is, just suitable, right? He was a child in the womb and he just appeared in a way that it was just suitable for him to see. He is unlimited. He is not limited by any measurement of our calculation. He can become bigger than what we can think of, and he can become smaller than what we can conceive. But in all circumstances, he's the same all-powerful Lord. There's no difference between the thumb-like Vishnu in the womb of Uttara and the full-fledged Narayana in the Vaikuntha Dham, in the spiritual realm, the kingdom of Godhead. He accepts the form. Okay, now Prabhupada is going to switch it up a little bit, because he's saying, okay, Krishna appears in so many ways, in so many different sizes, right? Now, this great king, Maharaj Parikshit, he was a great soul. He was not he was some incredibly advanced spiritual being. And he had that privilege to see Lord Vishnu even while he was in the womb. Other people can see Lord Vishnu in the Vaikunthas. They have that privilege. Most of us, here in this material world, we don't have that privilege. So now he begins to say, but he says, there's another way that he appears to us. He accepts the form of Archa Vigraha, the worshipful deity, in the temples, right? That in these carved images he can appear. Just to accept service from his different incapable devotees. We're incapable of perceiving him like Maharaj Parikshit did, or like the residents of Vaikuntha do. So we're incapable. But although we're incapable of seeing him, he appears in a form where we are capable of seeing him. by the mercy of the Archavigraha, that those forms in the temple, the form of the Lord in material elements, the devotees who are in the material world can easily approach the Lord, although he is not conceivable by the material senses. The Archavigraha is therefore an all spiritual form of the Lord to be perceived by the material senses. Such an Archavigraha of the Lord is never to be considered material. There's no, this is a good sense, there's no difference between matter and spirit for the Lord. Whether he's appearing to us in his full-on spiritual form or whether he appears in the Archavigraha, for him it's the same. Although there is a gulf of difference between the two in the case of the conditioned living being. For the Lord, there is nothing but spiritual existence. And similarly, there is nothing except spiritual existence for the pure devotee of the Lord in his intimate relation with the Lord.
Would you say, let me jump in here and ask you a question.
Yeah.
Would you say, suppose they carve a deity of Krishna, a marble deity of Krishna. Is that Krishna, or to the degree that the bhakta invests love, the devotee invests love in that deity, it becomes Krishna? And that's part one. And is it a light switch? It wasn't Krishna, now it's Krishna. It was just a piece of stone, and now it's Krishna. Or is there degrees that it become? Now it's really more, look at that guy's got so much devotion. It's really Krishna now. It was sort of Krishna like, a few years ago, but now it's really Krishna because the guy's become very evolved. What's your answer to that? Is it?
Well, okay, we got to kind of unpack that question a little bit. It's always Krishna. This pen is Krishna. Your headphones, in other words, we just said, like, it's all Krishna's energy in one sense, and he's present within it all. He's present within every atom we were just speaking of, right? So he's always present there. It's our ability to perceive whether he's present, which is the question, right? Now, this commentary was saying that because we are incapable of perceiving him as a person, of seeing his form, because we're lacking in that vision, he appears as the Archavigraha. So someone reads Srimad Bhagavatam and the descriptions that are here. Throughout this book, we're going to read descriptions of what his form looks like. And so based on those descriptions, someone's going to carve a form out of, let's say, stone. Okay? So your question is it Krishna? Does it become Krishna when we believe it's Krishna or when we serve it like it's Krishna? Now, if you ask that question to like a kind of Orthodox Hindu priest,
like you.
Well, when I say Orthodox here too, I mean
an Orthodox
like,
Hindu priest,
in a sense. But what I'm getting at is within the broader Hindu tradition, there are those that are more concerned with ritual, and they would likely answer this by saying, there's a ceremony, there's a process by which Krishna enters that form and accepts our service, our worship, our meditation. And until you've gone through that process, it's just like any other stone. But through that
ceremony
process,
of calling the Lord to enter
yes,
the stone.
Yeah. So through that process, if that's done right, then Krishna accepts our worship through that kind of his presence is there in another way, rather than just like as the Paramatma within the atoms. He actually enters that, he possesses that form and accepts our seva, our service. And until you do that, it's just like any other stone. Now, okay, fair enough. I mean, that is how the rituals are designed and all of that. But someone else could say that Krishna is everywhere, and what he responds to is devotion ultimately. So even if that formal process wasn't done, if someone is serving, say you have like a nice painting of Krishna in your home, and you begin to do puja to it every day, and you begin to offer food to it every day, and you've never done this formal process. Does Krishna not accept that? Is Krishna not there? Does he not appreciate your devotion? Is he not right there in that painting accepting that from you? Others would argue that, yeah, of course he is.
Right.
So, but I think the most essential part of your question is, you were saying, is it to the degree that is it
Have
to the degree of
devotion,
our devotion that Krishna is there? And again, I would say it's to the degree of our devotion that we understand that Krishna is there, that we realize that Krishna is there. And if that devotion is deep enough, like we read about Sri Chaitanya, who was, walking miles and miles from Bengal to Orissa, anticipating walking into the temple of Lord Jagannath, right? And for those that know about Lord Jagannath, it's a form of Krishna, but it's a form like, for lack of a better word, you could say like a simple or crude form of Krishna, right? It's just like
a totem.
It's like a big face and big eyes. Yeah, it doesn't look like the form behind Raghu. Those that are watching the video can see. He's got arms and legs, and he looks very human, and so on. The form of Lord Jagannath looks like a totem. But when Sri Chaitanya saw that form, he saw Krishna just like that. He saw Krishna holding a flute, with that threefold bending form. Anyone could realize that, but he did realize that. He did see that. So, and that was dependent on his devotion. So it's not that Krishna is there one way or another, but depending on our devotion, it's revealed to us, or we understand it. That's how I would answer your question, if that's all right.
Good answer.
You good with that?
Yes, I think we offended Jesse by saying Lord Jagannath is crude.
Prabhupada even uses a word like that. He uses even a word like, I think he even says ugly,
What?
Yeah. But
it's just not how we particularly perceive little baby Krishna.
I mean, I'm sure he sees him as beautiful, but I think he was saying, like, he was meaning that, like, what's the definition of the word crude? Mara, how is that word defined? Let's look that up. But like, very simple, it's a very simple form.
Let's say simple. Simple.
In a natural or raw state, not yet processed or refined.
There you go.
It's a raw state. There he goes. It's raw state.
Yeah.
Okay, by the way, those twins' names are Shivani and Shivangi.
Yes. But prior to initiation, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Shivani and Shivangi. They're great souls.
Yeah, great souls. Oh.
Okay, shall we continue reading?
Yeah.
All right. I just would love the end there, though. I just want to repeat this sentence again.
Say it again. For
the Lord, there is nothing but spiritual existence. Okay, he's there. For him, for us, it makes a difference, matter and spirit. For him, not. But then he says, for the Lord, there is nothing but spiritual existence. And similarly, there's nothing except spiritual existence for the pure devotee of the Lord in his intimate relation with the Lord.
Beautiful.
If the deeper that we go, it makes no difference. Yeah. I shared a thing. I shared a thing on Instagram on people should please go to our join our Instagram page. There's some good stuff.
Well, and like us, please.
And
please like us. Please like what we do.
I try to always take some essential thing out of the different shows and put them there in the form of quotes or in the form of clips. And I put a little clip there yesterday where Satchidananda Maharaj said that in the first stage of spiritual practice, it's all effort. And he said in the second stage, there is no effort. You are carried, he says. He said, you are carried. And what was the rest of it? And he says, and that happens the moment that you're fully invested, body, mind, and heart, in the practice. I think there's the more you think about that, we do our practice, but we're not fully invested, body, mind, and heart. We're somewhat invested, body, mind, and heart. And so it doesn't take off. And so we move around this world, and it's, we're trying to perceive some spiritual energy, and we're caught up in the material energy. But for that devotee, is a simile. And similarly, there is nothing except spiritual existence for the pure devotee of the Lord in his intimate relationship with the Lord. When our heart is fully invested, we'll see it all as spiritual energy in a sense. We just have to get fully invested. You know, that's the mission of this life, right? To keep moving forward to that full investment, body, mind, and heart.
Feeling like NPR Raghunath today.
Just mellow today, Raghunath.
Mellow.
What did those men do to you that dragged you off yesterday? They drugged you.
The Lord was thus engaged in vanquishing the radiation of the Brahmastra, just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew. He was observed by the child who thought about who he was.
He was sucking it all up with the club.
Yeah.
All the power of that weapon.
Yeah. While thus being observed by the child, the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, the super soul of everyone, and the protector of the righteous, who stretches in all directions and who is unlimited by time and space, disappeared at once. So he came, did his thing, disappeared.
How did he do it?
Sucked up that Brahmastra.
Like a sponge.
Yeah. Child Parikshit was not observing a living being who was limited by time and space. There's a gulf of difference between the Lord and the individual living being. The Lord is mentioned herein as the supreme living being, unlimited by time and space. Every living being is limited by time and space. Even though a living being is qualitatively one with the Lord, like people say, I am God, we are God, we are all God. Quantitatively.
Qualitatively we are, but quantitatively.
There's a great difference between the Supreme Lord and the common individual soul. This is an ongoing, confusing point.
Okay.
Because we are God-like. We want to uncover our Buddhahood, our godness, etc. But even in its most perfected state, we finally uncover we are still tiny and God is great because we have the ability to fall into illusion. God doesn't. If we are God, then why am I an illusion? That's the greatest question. So we are one with God, but we are also different. Just like a drop of water from the ocean. Qualitatively, it's the same. Right? Yeah. Under the microscope, same thing as the ocean. Quantitatively, finite. Such a good analogy. It's not mine. I'm not taking credit for that.
What's the other analogy that's used for that all the time?
Spark in the fire.
Spark in the fire.
Spark in the fire.
And another one that's very similar to spark in the fire.
Grain of sugar and a statue of sugar. A giant carving. Oh. No, I don't know. What else?
Well, the sun and the sunlight. The sun and the
sunlight.
The sun and the sunlight, right? So the quality.
Drop of honey and the honey.
Drop of honey.
And the honey
hive.
Vault, the honey vault.
Honey vaults.
The honey hive.
But the sunlight is qualitatively one with the sun because the qualities of heat and light are present in the sunlight, in the rays of the sun.
There you go.
But they're in, it's of course it's a material analogy, but like the sun is the source, whereas the rays or they're dependent on the sun and not vice versa.
The hair and the wig.
So in the same way, the soul, each one of us, is qualitatively one with God, and in that sense, we can say we are one with God.
Truthfully, this is the best analogy ever.
The sun and the sunlight.
Well, the drop of the sea, sun and the sunlight. The whole concept of we are one with, but we're different from. Not an analogy. It's the best way to explain this. Because it's a very confusing thing. People try to understand, am I God? Am I nothing? Am I, how am I praying to God if I am God? I'm praying to myself. Dear me, please grant me, what is oneness?
Well, so when we say qualitatively one, what are the qualities? And so just as the sun, the qualities are heat and light. And so the sunlight also possesses those qualities. The qualities of God are Satchit Ananda, eternal, conscious, and that consciousness even expands to, like you could say, like full awareness of truth. And
Ananda, filled with bliss.
Ananda. So as Krishna by nature is eternal, fixed in truth and fully aware and blissful. So that's also our nature. And in this sense, we're one because we're composed of that same spiritual energy. But we're just that tiny little speck. And we can become, and that nature we can lose touch. We never, that is our nature eternally, but we lose touch with it when we identify with the mind and body. And so yoga is just about correcting the mind, getting it back to understanding who I am, stopping that mind from interfering with our experiencing our own true nature. All right, Raghu?
That's the way to say it. That's
Okay.
the best way to say it. Child Parikshit was not observing a living being. Heard that. The Lord is mentioned herein as the supreme living being, unlimited by time and space. Every living being is limited.
Limited.
Quantitatively, there is a great difference between the supreme soul and the common individual soul. In the Bhagavad Gita, both living beings and the supreme being are said to be all-pervading. Yena sarvam mitam tatam.
Okay, so some people will use that to say, you see, that means I am God, because if the Atma is all-pervading and God is all-pervading, then I am, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's verses in the Bhagavad Gita that you could pick out to say, see, I'm God. I told you I was God. You didn't believe me. Start listening to me. We're all God. We're just an illusion. So I'll worship the deity to finally realize that I am God. This is a common thought in some type of Indian traditions, and it's a little bit off track.
If you read the entire Gita, then it becomes all very clear. Sometimes the phrasing, it could be interpreted two ways, but many times the phrasing can't be interpreted two ways. It's very clear.
Yet there is a difference between these two kinds of all-pervasiveness. A common living being or soul can be all-pervading within its own limited body. But the supreme living being is all-pervading in all space and time. A common living being cannot extend its influence over another common living being by its all-pervasiveness. But the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead, is unlimitedly able to exert his influence over all places and all times and over all living beings.
Yeah.
And
so
because,
for instance, Raghunath.
Yeah.
Am I hungry right now?
Nah, you're usually good till about 10.
That was called speculation. Right?
Speculate, yes.
You don't know
Yeah,
if I'm
I don't
hungry
know.
because your consciousness does not pervade my body.
Yeah.
And similarly, I don't know if you're hungry right now because your consciousness, that my consciousness doesn't pervade your body. So my consciousness is pervading my entire body. It's said in the Upanishads that the Atma is situated within the cave of the heart, right? Within the area of the heart. And that when the blood passes through that, it draws energy from the Atma. And it's through that energy that consciousness is spread throughout the entire body. So wherever the blood flows, our consciousness flows. But mine is limited to my body. Yours is limited to your body. Mara's is limited to Mara's body. But the Paramatma, that we're the Atma, the individual Atma, but the Paramatma, the supreme soul, his consciousness is pervading all bodies. And so that's the difference. So they're both all pervasive, but they're all pervasive in very different ways.
I'm getting caught up in a question here on the chat board.
Yeah.
How would you describe getting in touch with the eternal? It's very hard to imagine or feel the soul existing before this and after this life. Although I really believe and have faith in that because I can access the Ananda and the consciousness. Dana's asking that question. How do you describe getting in touch with the eternal? Is it just like noticing the eternal? Or noticing that I'm...
There are certain, we're eternal. And then there's certain, we have access to other things that are eternal. You laughing at me, Raghu?
No, I'm laughing because Aravind just wrote Mayavadi philosophy, right? Aravind is our...
What is Mayavadi philosophy?
I guess they don't, I don't know if he's thinking the whole question is, but if you want a good conservative answer, you go right to Aravind. Okay, he doesn't give you an inch, this guy.
But we have access to certain things that are eternal. So, for instance, the name of Krishna is eternal, right? It's not different from Krishna. It's spiritual energy. It's not material. Material energy is the forms that it's taking are temporary. But for instance, the message of the Bhagavatam, that's an eternal message. It's not different from Krishna. Krishna's name is not different from Krishna. We have access to them. We need to bring our mind to them. You know, we need to reflect on the idea that I'm eternal. And I mean, there are practical ways that we can look at it and analyze it and try to understand. The Bhagavad Gita is going to start there, right? Like, just on try to understand this. It's clear that the body's temporary. There's no doubt about that. We see that the body changes in so many ways, even in one lifetime. But our eternal consciousness, we've gone through all those different bodies. We remember being in the 3-year-old body. We remember being in the 10-year-old body, in the 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old bodies. Our consciousnesses remain the same, even though the external things have changed. So Krishna is going to tell Arjuna, so therefore try to understand your eternality, that you are not bound by the material elements. Although they're temporary, you're not. So that's like a logical argument. And based on such large logical arguments, one can begin to reflect on the idea that I'm eternal. How do we know? We know because it's said in the Upanishads, it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, we accept that source, with faith. And you contemplate that, you reflect on that. But then you also practice bringing your mind to those eternal elements. And through them, you realize your eternality, right? Through your chanting of the mantra, through your absorption in the Bhagavatam, one can begin to understand it, realize it, and become fearless. Yeah. And when you meet the great devotees, they are fearless, right?
Yeah. It just becomes part of what you are when you understand, I can't die.
Yeah.
There's like the anxiety melts. Even I was saying the other day, there's a natural anxiety of being in the material world. It's natural because you realize I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose everything I love. But you get to this point, I'm speaking like I'm there. You get to this point where you're like me and you're not scared of anything. I could imagine that you get to this point where you feel like,
so you should tell
it's really good, man. Wait till you get to this point, Kaustubha. Nothing bothers you.
I was going to say you should tell the story about when it was the middle of the winter and you thought someone had busted into your home and the car came in your driveway and all of that.
That was a crazy story. I had a little bit of fear there. Walking around with a knife in my pajamas. Oh, Krishna.
Why don't we finish this commentary?
Okay. A common living being or soul can be
A common living being cannot extend its influence over another common living being by its all-pervasiveness, but the supreme supersoul, the personality of Godhead, is unlimitedly able to exert his influence over all places and all times and over all living beings. And because he is all-pervasive, unlimited by time and space, he can appear even within the womb of the mother of child Parikshit. He is mentioned herein as the protector of the righteous. Anyone who is a surrendered soul unto the Supreme is righteous. And he is specifically protected by the Lord in all circumstances. The Lord is the indirect protector of the unrighteous also. So he's always protecting everyone indirectly to the unrighteous, but directly to the righteous. For he rectifies their sins through his external potency. Right? Through the material world and what we go through, he's protecting us, even if it seems painful. The Lord is mentioned herein as one who is dressed in the 10 directions. This means dressed with garments on the 10 sides up and down. He is present everywhere and can appear and disappear at his will from everywhere and anywhere. His disappearance from the sight of child Parikshit does not mean that he appeared on the spot from any other place. He was always there, right? He was present there. And even after his disappearance, he was there, although invisible to the eyes of the child. This material covering of the effulgent firmament is also something like a womb of the mother nature. And we are all put into the womb by the Lord, the Father of all living beings. He is present everywhere, even in this material womb of Mother Durga. Interesting way to look at the material world. and those who are deserving can see the Lord.
Yes. That was beautiful.
Okay, this
That
is
was
my show now,
vividly
Raghu.
beautiful. I know. That's what I'm feeling.
Okay, ready, everybody? All right, I want to see everybody turn that namaste into
You
hand
like
clap.
that job,
Just mute him. Just mute him there. There we go.
Hey, I checked our chartable results.
Yeah.
We're charting in Russia, and we're charting in Australia, and we're charting in some other interesting places.
What about Japan? That's the one I'm concerned.
Charting in Japan!
But I want to be number one in
Japan.
Japan. We're just one step away.
Rodney! I think we're down to 37 in Japan.
Oh man!
Hey, if you want us to chart in your hometown, go right to Apple Podcasts and give us a rating, a 5-star rating, and say, chart these guys. Thanks everybody for joining us, Apple Podcast people. And if you're out there, if you're one of the others, or Californians, please write in to Mara, Wisdom of the Sages 108 at gmail.com. Tell us how you're doing. Tell us you like the show. So we don't know where you are. We don't know if you're listening. Let us know you're listening. All I know is these faces that are jumping around the screen right now. They're not dancing. Kaustubha, you got to be more of a party people to make these people dance.
That's
Come
your
on,
job.
Look at me. See, I'm bouncing on my seat. I'm moving my arms. Come on, I call them out. Come on, David Charles Wilson. I'm looking at you. Yeah. Come on, Mara. This is where Mara just like cuts out. She just like leaves. Every show, we wind up the show, Mara just disappears. And then you got to lip sync it, Mara.